لا عفوا ما عليك بس عشان
So the
نوضح.
interview's just meant to begin.
لا بدك تحكي طبعا وعلى جوابه تمام. بدك تقدموا الاثنين وحسب الصفه اللي هن بيرتاحوا فيها. انه هن مو من الوفد، هن كل واحد مستقل independent. Not from some delegations. We are from England, from Belgium.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very pleasure for us here to have two visitors who are coming here to actually relay the facts of what's happening in Syria. The first one is Mr. Kris Johnson. He is an analyst on Syria. He knows so much. He's been actually to Syria so many times. And Mr. Mike, and he's also chief editor of a British online website. So we would like to ask them a few questions about their visit here. So Kris, let me start with you actually. I know you've been here actually a long time, so many times. You came at a very critical time for Syria. So I'd like to know, what's your impression now with your latest visit now?
My impression is that Syria is becoming stronger and stronger. The will and the spirit of the Syrian people becomes stronger. There is a contradiction. In the West, they think the longer the war will continue every year, the weaker Syria will become. I see the opposite. I see every year the strength of the Syrian people, the will, the spirit becomes stronger to defend their country, to resist the aggression against them. They defend their homeland. Every Syrian defends his homeland. So I see the spirit is growing. You get the opposite. It's not getting weaker. Syria is getting stronger. Even with the destruction, you can destruct a building, you can destruct infrastructure, but you can rebuild this. But what is essential is the will of the Syrian people to defend their homeland. And this they cannot break. And this, I see the spirit is getting stronger every year. The spirit of resistance, proud of their homeland, to defend their homeland. And they will never achieve to break this.
Mr. Mike, also the same actually question. I'm sure you've met a lot of Syrians here during this time, of course, which is a very critical time. What do you think about that? When you were meeting with those Syrians?
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet Syrians here. They've made me feel overwhelmed, really welcome. They often wonder why I'm here, and I have to tell them that as a man from Britain, I feel that my government is partly fueling this war. Many countries are providing support to the terrorists, and whether that be arms, money, diplomatic support, or even media coverage in the UK that's very, very pro-terrorist, anti-Syrian government. And so I feel it's a duty to come here, and I tell the Syrians that I meet that it is my duty, but it's also my privilege and my honour to be here and to witness what we witnessed last week. We were in Aleppo, to see the destruction, to see the children and their faces. They've seen things that no child should have to witness. But I wanted to see that with my own eyes, because I can't see that in the Western mainstream corporate media. It's just never reported. We might see a few headlines and scenes of destruction, but they won't tell you exactly what happened and how the people are coping and what they've had to live through for these past 5 or 6 years. So I wanted to come here to see with my own eyes, to bring back the voices of Syria back to my own country, which is again something that my media at home doesn't do. We don't get that from the BBC or ITN, things like that. So yes, I always say it's my privilege and pleasure to be here, but it's also my duty. But I've been welcomed overwhelmingly. It's been fantastic, and they're so friendly. The one thing that I see in everyone is this spirit of defiance. And as Kris said, their will not be broken ever, and they are getting stronger and stronger. But I hope to God that this war ends soon.
Kris, let's go back actually to the latest incidents, which of course the West propaganda about the so-called chemical use by the Syrian army. You've seen exactly what happened, and the U.S. aggression, of course, against the Syrian air base. Sure. So we would like to know exactly what do you think about that? What do you think of the whole thing?
Yes, this attack with chemical weapons, this gas attack, it's a joke, because it was confirmed last year in 2016, it was officially confirmed that the Syrian army, Syria, has no weapons of mass destruction. All the weapons with toxic gas were destroyed or taken out of the country. This was officially confirmed. There was also no logic. Why should the Syrian army, who is now in the offensive in all over the country, who is making progress, why should they use chemical weapons? There is no logic in it. So it's a joke. They made this as pretext to make this attack on the Syrian airbase. They wanted to attack. There is no legal basis. There is no United Nations resolution. There is nothing. This was an act like they act like cowboys. They made a pretext, this chemical attack, which was total joke, and then they used this to make this attack with they attacked the airbase without any legal basis. So this is a very dangerous situation, because I asked myself, if they did this once, what are they going to do in the future? I mean, do the Americans, don't they follow any international rules anymore? Any international law? This is a very dangerous situation. Yes.
Actually, it brings me also why, for example, the same question to you, back before moving tonight. This, of course, the latest massacre that happened with the people who were just transported by the buses, and this Afua and Kufriya, where so many people have been killed, but none of the Western media has done they get silent about it, in comparison with what they made with the so-called chemical thing.
It was a cowardly attack. They killed 120 women and children. These were innocent children and women, and they killed them in a savage way. And they don't report this in the West. Why? Because in the West they want to turn the truth 180 degrees. They, what I heard is they said, okay, these so-called white helmets, what they call the civil defense, were there to help the people, and they saved 100 people. Through these white helmets, they are part of the terrorists. They are part of Al-Qaeda, the terrorist organization. And of course they were there because they knew that the attack was going to happen. And everything was like a theater, you know. So these white helmets, they are part of the terrorists. And the only one who can protect the Syrian people is the Syrian National Army and the Syrian people themselves. And they are the ones who protected them. These white helmets, believe me, they are part of the terrorists. And everything was like a scene, you know. It was prepared. Of course, they were there because they knew it was going to happen. It was a cowardly attack against innocent children. And there was an honest deal with the government to make an exchange to give the terrorists in Zabadani also the possibility, the chance to go to a safer area for them, to Idlib. And then they made this cowardly attack. Why? There is because these people, they are extremists. They are evil. They are influenced by this extremist Wahhabi ideology. And you see the result. Do the Syrian people really want to live in a community like this, in a society like this? Of course not. Syrian people always lived peacefully together. And this what you see, this is not the Syrian people. The Syrian people are a peaceful nation, peaceful people. They never have a conflict with each other. So this is all prepared abroad. This is they do this to destroy the country. To destroy the country, they want to destroy the country because Syria is part of the axis of resistance. Syria never bowed to the United States like other nations also in the Arab world did. They surrendered. Syria never surrendered. It was an independent country. It was a proud country, a peaceful country. There was prosperity. Like education, healthcare was of very high standard. Everything was free in Syria. Everyone had a house. You didn't see any beggars on the street. It was a peaceful country, and the people have a good life. And they want to destroy this because, yes, Syria never gave in. Syria never surrendered. And this is the reason they want to destroy Syria.
Michael said that in fact it's the same thing about the chemical propaganda, what they did about this thing. And of course, on the other side, what happened in the last 50 years. I'd like to know some more.
Yeah, in terms of the alleged chemical attack, I think that most analysts around the world now, and the short investigation that's happened, I know it's not a UN investigation yet, but what I'm hearing is that the attack was with conventional weapons by the Syrian Air Force. What they hit, maybe unwittingly, but it was either organic phosphates used for fertilizers on farming, on agricultural land, or it may have been a chemical weapons depot by the terrorists. But it makes no sense for the Syrian government to use chemical weapons at this late stage, or at any stage in fact. In terms of how the media covers this though, and this is the most important thing, because when you can blame something on the Syrian government, those victims are worthy victims. If it's the terrorist attack, the suicide bombing in Aleppo, you can't blame that on the government, although I know I've seen mainstream media try to do that in the last few days, but they are unworthy victims. And the difference is, worthy victims are the victims of the West's enemies, whereas unworthy victims who get no airplay and no column inches, they're the victims of our allies, the people that we're supporting. And so if anyone is in any doubt about how the West is supporting the terrorists here in Syria, you just need to look at how the victims are covered. We will know the names and the personal details of the victims of the alleged chemical weapons attack, but the victims of the atrocity in Aleppo, the recent atrocity in Aleppo, we'll never know who they are. We might know that there's some children, 60 children, and many women, but we'll never hear their details. We'll never hear their life stories, because, as I say, the West just doesn't consider them worthy enough to even put on the media. So we might hear numbers, but we'll never hear details.
Actually, we're very proud to have you with us here, in fact, and to know the truth. But the thing is, my last question for you both actually is, start with Kris, of course. I mean, what can you do, for example, once of course, you know all those facts, you do so many times. This, of course, Mike, of course, more than one time. So, what can you, for example, can you do to convey the truth to the Belgian people, or even to people you know?
The Western media in Belgium, but in general, the Western media is very powerful because they brainwash the people. People have an idea about, they use certain terminology. Like, they never talk about the Syrian government, they talk about the Syrian regime. They call the Syrian National Army the army of Assad, like His Excellency President Bashar al-Assad has his private militia or something like that. So they use a terminology to poison the minds of the people. And when this happens in the second stage, they bring all these lies. And what I am trying to do is bring the truth to the people. And this is a long process. Because in the beginning, they don't believe you. They even act aggressively towards you, because they say, you're a friend of the dictator and things like that. But you have to be patient. It's a process. It will take years, and you have to realize we are not alone. We have activists, journalists all over the world, like my colleague. We have people all over the world who are fighting for the truth. So, and this makes it strong. You have to realize that we are a worldwide community, and we make progress slowly. But you have to be patient. You have to take your time, and slowly the people will realize what happens. And sometimes they learn the hard way. Like, I'm from Belgium, and you know, they blow up. They had an attack on the airport in Brussels and the metro system in Brussels. And for Belgian people, the war in Syria is far away. But if they blow up, if the terrorists attacked the airport in Brussels, it's near their home. And then they wake up. So sometimes something bad first has to happen before they wake up. And then they start to ask questions. And then we are there to answer these questions. But this is not a process from one day to another. This is a process of years. And we're a community. We're a worldwide community. And this makes us strong. We are not alone. We work together, hand in hand, to bring the truth to the people and to provide them with the right information.
Michael, the same thing actually. I know it's also very difficult, because I know course, the best standard that the government is speaking, and even with BBC and some of the channels. What do you think? What can you do for yourself?
Well, what me and my co-editor have done is actually not hate the media, but be the media. So we began our own independent news website. People can just Google BS News and you'll find us. But I think what Kris alluded to earlier is it's the growing community, and it's not just sort of political activists, it's media analysts as well. So there is a growing community, especially amongst the young people, certainly in the UK, who are switching off for BBC and ITN and Sky News because they know that this official narrative is the government narrative, and they know that they've lied in the past, and so they're actively seeking out their news. And I think that's what we all have to do now. We can't sit by and passively get news fed to us. You have to make some effort, and you have to find independent journalists around the world that are going to tell you the truth. And there are so many of them. It's not like a few dozen. There are hundreds of really good journalists around the world. They just don't get airtime on the mainstream news channels, unfortunately, but they are there. And obviously with the internet, they can all be found, and you can read their blogs and you can see their videos online. So I think that I'm optimistic in a way that the younger generation are turning away from what we would see as the mainstream media, and they're getting news from other sources. And alternative sources today tend to be the truthful sources, because the media have marched in lockstep to war, and they always have. I think most people can recognise that fairly easily these days. So yeah, I'm optimistic about the media, because there's such a divergent space now. With the internet, it's so easy for anyone to become their own news outlet. As I say, that's what I've done with my co-editor, and it's working well. We've been going for 5 or 6 years. We get lots of views now, but we get the best journalists from around the world, and we publish them.
Actually, Syria and Syrian people are very proud to have you with us, actually.
Thank you.
تعقب